Good evening, everybody. It's fantastic to be with you this evening for the third installment of a great conversation that I've been having with Pastor George Thompson. I'm Dr. Joshua Smith, and for those of you joining us for the first time, and we're having conversations with Pastor George Thompson, one of the pastors at Faithful Central Bible Church, and his background is in financial management and planning, and he's written a fantastic book focused on a 21-day financial fast that our church has been participating in, and we're happy here. And there he goes with a copy of it. If you haven't got a copy, it's not too late to get it. It's not too late to start this financial fast. You can really do it anytime of the year. But we're so happy, and we see a few more people entering the room. So welcome again to our third installment of this conversation that Zoe Center is sponsoring here with myself, Dr. Joshua Smith, and Pastor George Thompson. We're primarily here to answer people's questions. I'm sure you have a lot of them after doing this financial fast, a lot of aha moments, maybe some snags you came up upon that we can address. Maybe some of you are thinking about your financial future. We can address both from a spiritual perspective and a practical perspective. So feel free to type your questions in and pose your questions, and we're happy to get them. And as we're waiting for those questions, Pastor George, what were some of the highlights for you as you were introducing this to our church? I know you've gone to different churches and done this. Maybe you have a different experience every time, but what was your highlight here introducing it to us?
First of all, I want to tell you, it was just really exciting. First of all of you who not only just purchased the book, but then also got in the program. And then I came back, if you remember, Super Bowl Sunday,
Super Bowl
and just
Sunday,
answered questions. So I just have a few questions for you guys. And by the way, we're typing them in and doing this. But what I really enjoyed about that, so is that you guys really, everybody I talked to had read of information that was in the book, and then they were also implementing. You just had some questions. So hey, I'm going to start off with this: who here can cook, and who is a food handler? So if you remember, if you can cook, you just cook the food, and doing that. If you're a food handler, that means you just get food eating out and put it on plates. But during the fast, you learned how to just put it in the air fryer. You learned how to make it. So I had a few questions that people asked me. So what I want to do is just kind of walk through them, one or two of them with you, and then we'll also have more. It's this: hey, is that I eat out because a lot of times I travel and different things like this. So one of the things we talked about was doing something called meal prep, where you actually started preparing your meals in advance, because one of the things during the financial fast is we try not to eat out as much. So we knew that, and we gave you a little break on certain days, right? Valentine's Day. There were just certain things that people say, well, what do I do during these? So then I just suggested certain things. One of them was to buy a gift card a lot of times before it started, or just to go out for that one meal, but then also do things with a thought. Like where you also bought cards, or you did certain things, or you wrote cards, or you did certain things, or prepared a meal, went out and bought and prepared a meal for somebody. So in other words, you just learn how to adjust, not to stop doing things. So one of them is just to do that, and then also to meal prep, because a lot of times we learned how to cook meals at home that you had purchased at restaurants. If you remember, Dr. Joshua, we had talked about that people, we went to certain restaurants where the meal was $30, or $50. So let's use $40 was the meal, that we learned how to make it at home for half the price, and then take that extra $20 or half that money and put in our prosperity package and doing that. So that was another way of them doing that.
No, and those savings are real. I mean, I know I've learned even before the financial fast to try to find things I like and try to food handle at the house. So those savings are definitely real. And I want to remind our viewers here, you can type your questions in the question in the Q&A section on your screen. You can go there and you can type in a question, and we'll be happy to answer it. Pastor George had just put out how many of you are cook, or how many of you food handle, or how many of you became food handlers because of the financial fast. Or any question you have regarding your experience with the financial fast, or any financial question, again, we're happy to respond to, either from a practical perspective, a spiritual perspective, or really both, because they both come together. So please send in your questions. And I see one already let's see here. Actually, it was more as a comment. It says, yes, I purchased shop card with cash at Costco to use for gas instead of using a bank card at the pump. So that's some
Yes,
right there, right? In terms of,
gotcha.
yeah.
And please put in comments. So I'm going to give you an exact example. So if you look at Costco, and then I'm gonna segue into something. Okay, so let's look at Costco now. You brought this up, by the way. I'm not giving out stock or bond recommendations. I'm just using pure examples. So if you go to Costco, I had to turn around and see if my kids were going to yell. It keeps the cost low. My kids know that whenever they say Costco. So if you look at it, Costco's business model is not to make a large profits on certain things. If you look at it, their markup is the lowest. That's why when you go there, you see the floors, different things at Costco. Second is Costco only sells something if it sells, and they sell in bulk. Their revenue and their profits are made on memberships. So that's over 100. That's over. They sell over $100 billion worth of stuff a year, but it's made on memberships, similar to Disneyland. So when you buy at Costco, you're actually getting stuff at a discount. So that's how you did that with your gas. Is that so? You look at how much you usually spend on gas. You look at how much money you saved on gas, and then you take that and put that in your prosperity pouch or your prosperity jar, and that's how you actually begin to save money. So you can do a lot of that with just gas and doing it that way. So that's very good that you did that. Could also, if you want to type in other ways that you save money, I'd be more than happy for us to be able to review them and talk about them.
So I see Karen here. She says she's a cook, and she's like, okay, well, being a member of Costco is a good thing. I think you're affirming that. And
right,
and
that's an exact example. So that's one we already used before. Is that if you look at their salmon, sea bass, different fish, different things, is actually going home and preparing that and then learning it. But have a fun, like look at the way that something's prepared at a really nice restaurant. And then you can literally buy it at Costco, and then you can they'll have 7 or 8, pieces of salmon in there. You can actually prepare that meal, and then I call it plate it. And then if you guys ever take the pictures, you guys can always put them on our Facebook page, the 21-day fast start, or do those and share them. But take one in the restaurant, and then take one since you said, Karen, you're a cook, you take that picture, and then it just feels so much better. You ever eat something for $8.50 as opposed to $40? I don't know why. It just tastes better to me. It just does. I don't know why, but it does. So those are ways that you do that. That's a way that you do that to actually save, so that you can do it. And it's really not about being cheap. It's just about being efficient. Because what happens is that you have that money that you can do other things with. And then remember, I told you to the segue is that if we look at it, you guys understand that Costco is a publicly traded company, so that you can buy that stock. So then what happens is, and then I'm going to ask you a question, Dr. Joshua, about benefactor. And when I watched you minister on Super Bowl Sunday and doing that one. So one of the things that we talked about was that, you see, if you own Costco stock, you're what's called a owner. And you own the stock, you're an owner, a producer, it's where you consume. Because you remember that? We talk about old McDonald having a farm.
That's right.
So it's the same with stocks, you know what I mean? And investing is that when you invest money, you make income 4 ways. Remember, on a farm, you have chickens, cows, pigs, and horses. But when you invest, you have interest, dividends, stocks pay dividends, capital gains, and income. Those 4 areas. So Costco is a stock that pays dividends. So
I'll say that again. I think part of too, as we begin to change our mindset about going from being a consumer to investor, is learning that vocabulary. Can you repeat those terms again for us,
Gotcha.
please?
So when you invest money, or you do this, like if you own a property or you own stock, that you get income, you make money 4 ways. One is income, like if you have a piece of real estate, someone pays you rent, that's income. Then you have something called dividends, stock paid dividends, like you own a stock, the dividend paying stock. Then you have interest, like you have a bank and you put money in there and you get interest. The other one's called a capital gain. Capital gain means you buy something at 50 and then it goes up to 100. That means you had a capital gain. All right. And doing that. So we want to look at things that produce income. And when you're doing that, and those are the same things you use inside of your retirement, your 401k, things like that, right? So you have a 401k at a for-profit company, 403b nonprofit, 457 you work for a county, and then, or if you have it, using those, you can always have an IRA. That's individual retirement account. So those are always ways that you can utilize to build wealth.
A couple more comments from some of my
Deborah
viewers.
Pagay.
I love this one here about recycling Valentine's Day cards. Clearly from a married couple who's been married a long time, 44 years. But hey, you know what? They know each other well enough to understand what they can do to communicate to each other how much they love each other, and so they recycle Valentine's Day cards because their love is fresh every year. I love that. In fact,
Yeah.
it's interesting.
That's
At a
awesome.
certain point, my wife told me, like, you know what? Flowers aren't really my thing. She
Right.
she kind of let me know, and flowers aren't cheap. So I found other ways to really commemorate her on Valentine's Day. She really likes me cooking for her. So that's one plus for me.
Oh my
And
goodness.
absolutely. And it saves on the restaurant for sure. And we had a wonderful time. So understanding what your spouse needs. And then going back to Costco, I'm seeing Adrian here coming back with us about, like, when you go to Costco, you can buy things
Oh my
that are
goodness.
worth $100, but you might only pay like $80.
Exactly. So back to Adrian, put your hand up to the screen and give me a high five. Give me a high five. So first of all, and then I'm coming back to Deborah. But so back to those gift cards is that, for movie theaters. So you can always do that at movie theaters. So like what they'll do is they have $25, or they have $50 where you buy a gift card so that you can go to a movie theater. So remember that about not eating out? You buy the gift card at Costco, and you can do that. And also you can buy them at restaurants. You can go to the movie theater. And then, by the way, when you come in the movie theater, I'm not saying my do I look big here? I got everything with me. My wife would be sitting there like this, and she'd be like this. Hey, are you thirsty? She's like, yeah. I'll say, okay, here you go. And said, hey, you want some liquor? Here you go. You might want to stop at the Dollar Tree on your way in other words. But you can also do that exact same thing at buying all those before you go to the theater. But you can also buy those tickets as well. And then back to Deborah and Darnell. I just wanted to make an announcement about Darnell loves Deborah. So he said in 1995 that he loved her, and he wants to know in 2005 he loved her, and in 2024 he loves her. So he can use the same card.
Well, at that point, they have sentimental value too. They have sentimental value, so you make it work.
Yes, that's how that is exactly how you do it. So no, that is excellent. Hey, also on there, as you guys noticed, one of the first things we did when we went through the financial fast, one of the things we did is we found out what level you're at. Struggling and sinking means inability to pay bills. Steady means that you can pay bills, but some snap, crackles, or pops fall down. And then there's solid. That means you've been working somewhere for a while, everything's good, everything like that. 1 week vacation, surplus, extra money. Highest level is service. That means you're not concerned with money. You just do whatever God put you on this earth to do. So this is my question to you. What are some things you would think that you need to do to go to the next level? Just say one or two things that you think that you need to do to go to the next level. And then I'll just start off with number one, and then Dr. Joshua, I'll just kick it over to you. One of them is that getting out of debt is probably one of them. Is that people saying that, hey, I'd be able to do a little bit more if I was able to pay off my home. I was able to do this. I was able to do that. That's probably these are all number ones. I'll give you three of them. That's one. And then you can just kind of wave at me or type it in when you get to that level. The other one is invest more or diversify a little bit differently. So to be able to achieve your goals. And then this is the other one, and then I'll kick it. I want to kick it over to you, Dr. Joshua. Is also getting your family, getting other people involved. Like in other words, like you have friends, different things like this. Is that you all kind of go there together. That's one of the things we wanted to work on, and that's why we did this as a corporate fast together, because you feel like we're all getting better together. And then how did you feel about this as far as also Dr. Joshua, when you guys just give him a hand? This teaching Gyra, when he was breaking that down all about prosperity gospel, this and making a sacrifice, and then how you go through the process. It's just been a blessing listening to you every week, get up and minister in that area. So I just kind of wanted to just look at you, ask you just a question about what do you think just people just in general, just sharing, need to do to get to the next level?
No, I appreciate that. And I'll just tell you from a practical perspective in our own family, just reassessing the value of certain status symbols and our emotional attachment to things that have emotional value, but don't have financial value, and just making that switch in my head and getting excited about sometimes downsizing. And downsizing doesn't feel good, right? But at recognizing like the true value of something, so to invest my money in things that have true value versus things that just have emotional value, because knowing that there's a time coming when I'll be able to re-engage with some of those things and give me those emotional highs, but on terms that make more financial sense. So that's
Right.
one of the adjustments I know I've had to make in my life in terms of building my pathway toward wealth.
Can I change it? Can I give you another word to use instead of you guys? We don't. I've never downsized. I've only right sized. Sometimes you
Love
were in
that.
something that was a little bit that was a wrong size, and you just went to the right size. So what happens is there's people that have owned home like right now. Right now, but I have 3 children, so there's 5 of us in this house, and there's bedrooms, different things like this. Is that sometimes after your kids go to college and after they're out of the house, then they said they use the term empty nesters. Is sometimes you want to not sell it, but right size your house and move into a house that's the right size for you, and then maybe use some of the capture some of that equity. You may also be able to use that to retire more comfortably and different things like this. So what happens is we have to look at what the right size is for everybody, and
That's
look at that
good.
for
That's
when you're
really
doing it. Just
good.
like when you go out, just like so when I'm out with myself. So by the way, guys, I can do commercials on this, but one of my cars is a minivan and everything like this. When I travel and I'm out, so if I'm in another city, I don't rent a 7-passenger minivan because it's just me. I get the right size. We also have to do that when we're making our decisions. What's the right size for us? And then as you know, it says it in the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want.
Yes.
So that means that so what we're saying is that in good times, when I had a lot of money and when I had a little bit of money, the Lord is my shepherd, I didn't want for nothing.
That's good.
So that's learning to be content with what you have and take care of it and be a good steward.
And learning to trust the Lord too, because as you said, and I like that term, right sizing, that doesn't mean that you're going to do without or not. That doesn't even necessarily mean you'll be without some of those other things that you're excited about, because sometimes there's another way in which it's provided for you, or there's another place in your timeline, financial timeline, in which you'll experience it. But you get to experience how creative God can become
Right.
in responding to your needs, and it's a variety of ways that He can do that. And part of that is just trusting the Lord.
Right. But let's use a specific practical example of that. Let's use an example of something that somebody wants to have now, but then there's a different perspective of looking at it. Can you give me a specific example? If not, I'll use Nike tennis shoe. Can we use that as an example?
Yeah, so an
So,
example of
people
something that somebody would want. I mean,
want now, and they said maybe delay gratification and do something. But if not, I will use Nike tennis shoe. Okay.
Okay.
I'll use Nike, and then you tell me which other one you like to use.
Okay.
So there are people that walk around this earth that have shoes that Nike makes that cost over a couple hundred, that cost like, let's say $300. I would say to them, when I teach the Wealth Academy, that means kids under 18. I'm teaching kids about investing and finances. I tell them to go talk to their parents and get a pair of Nike shoes that are $100 or less and buy a share of the stock. It's okay. I'm going to repeat myself. Buy a share of the stock. Because what happens is you have so much pride and ownership later on. When you see other people, I'm holding up 4 fingers. When you see other people, I'm going to hold up 4 fingers. When you see other people walking around, I'm going to hold up 4 fingers and break them down, walking around with those shoes on, and you only have the $100 shoes on, and they have the $400 shoes, and they have the $400 shoes on, and you have a share of stock, you're kind of in your mind saying, I might be collecting income. Type it in the chat. Dividends. Capital gains mean the stock goes up, or interest. So then you're not really even that focused on that. Like when I see people, just so you know, I'm back to naming names. When I'm at Target, people will ask me, like when I'm walking around, hey, where's the toilet paper? Where's this? Where's that? I'll say it's on aisle 38C. With that's on it. I said, hey, by the way, I was walking this way here. This is yours. Get that. Let people from the line. Why am I so nice and dark? And then if someone shoplifts, I'll tackle them. Why? First of all, I'm a nice guy. But then also, what am I doing? I'm holding up 4 fingers. I'm also thinking about what interest, dividends, capital gains, and interest. Because you're an owner. It's like a different mentality. So I don't have to have everything. But when my family travels, the first place we walk into is a Target to buy just the stuff and things. Because when you guys go to those hotels, please just hit me up in the chat. You guys know in those hotels, they charge so much for everything.
Right. And
I
it's
have
going
all
up.
that stuff in a little. I carry a little bag in there from Target. By the way, I got the receipts. I went to Kansas City for our family reunion, and I bought my kids. We went to tour the stadium, and I bought my kids all this stuff at Target, Kansas City hats and all the jerseys. They said they didn't want none of it. We went to the stadium. They walked in that pro shop and wanted it. I pulled out all that stuff and put it on. Then he said, "Hey, you gonna pay for it?" I said, "Man, I paid for this yesterday at Target. I got the receipts." You see, this is God's money. We got to be good stewards over it. Time, talent, temple, treasure. That's how you do it.
I,
Adrian Williams said, "Be consistent." I'm sorry. Go ahead, Doctor.
no, I was gonna say I love that example, and it's interesting how how just owning something, how it affects your psychology and how your eyes go to different kinds of things, and just how differently it makes you feel as a person purchasing things, just having that stock and understanding the financial implications of that.
Right. So we call it new eyes. Can everybody say new eyes? I know you're home. Say
That's
new
good.
eyes.
That's
Like, so
good.
what you do is you're walking around and you just kind of look at things differently. So let's just say you get up, like you're at home right now, or you're where you're just start thinking about things. And then you guys can type this in, and you can type this in the chat, or just I want you to start getting a running list. Okay. When you get up in the morning, you have sheets and covers on your bed, right? Where did they come from? Don't say sheets and don't say covers. No, you're gonna name a place. I'm gonna help you out a little bit. You're probably gonna Walmart, Target, something like that, right? Then you go into your bathroom, and I don't know if you brush your teeth, but I highly suggest it. So what you do is you can just boom, you can just brush your teeth. What's the companies? Say Crest. What are the brand names that these companies are? And then think about how many people do that. We wash our clothes, like look at that. And then I'm just naming names again. Tide. You're naming these companies. By the way, that's $1 billion product. How many people use Tide? How long you've been using Tide? And just in doing that. Then you pick up a cell phone. Who made that cell phone? Let's keep picturing my family, by the way. Who made that cell phone? Then who made your laptop? Who made, just start looking at all the product that you consume, and then how you can be an owner of that. And then now we're looking at the financial fast is showing you how to a way of how you can start acquiring that, and the transformation from consuming to producing and doing that.
I say as you're talking, I say a couple other tips from the comments here. Talking about the Google cards are
Cynthia,
another way to
I
save.
didn't.
And mentioned another suggestion too about going on cruises and the time of year that you go. You can also save on that. And and then I'm also seeing one about another amen to the right sizing concept. So people are definitely digging kind of what you're saying with that, with respect to that. Let me ask you this,
Right.
Pastor George, with respect to buying stocks. So
Mhm.
do people ever need to do any kind of research before they buy the stocks, or is it simply like, hey, I'm buying this product, let me go ahead and buy the stock for it? Or do you have any kind of rules or templates for that?
Oh, that's great. So first of all, I just want to say this. Today, when I'm using examples and everything, I've been investing for quite some time. You should sit down with a financial advisor and go over these things, like what's called risk tolerance, what your goals are, and then how to achieve them in the most effective way, and in doing things. And then also, I leave my information on here if you have any questions about that. I have no problem actually helping you do that. But yes, you do need to do research on them. So number one, just some basic things you want to make sure you look at is number one, like the company, like kind of what they do and how long they've been doing. I saw someone also write in the chat just different companies, like that you look at. But then there's also, I just want to give you just drop one little nugget on you tonight is this. Also look at companies that can sell something on what's called intrinsic value. Intrinsic value means that somebody's willing to pay a premium in order to get it. So I'll give you an example. The ones we just used were Nike, meaning that how much does it cost to make a pair of tennis shoes? It costs less than $5, right? But they can charge $100 because somebody's buying because of the name brand of. I'm not going to name all these people in the NBA and see how people feel about them and doing it, but you're paying a premium for that.
Wait, say
Coca-Cola,
that again. How much does it cost to make a shoe?
how much it costs to make a pair of shoes and how much they sell them for. The difference between what it costs to make and then
Oh,
what
how
that
much did
is.
you say it costs to make a
Oh,
Nike?
less than $5 because they're because where they're being made and the different things. It costs
You
less
just
than
put
that.
that in perspective for me.
But look at that on everything. Look at Coca-Cola, like the sodas that you drink. They're water. Okay, I'm going to say this, and then this is a company I like. Starbucks. How much does a Starbucks drink cost? You don't pay me, Jeff. You tell me, Dr. Josh. How much does that cost?
I mean, no less than $5. Actually,
Gotcha. That's hot.
like
Why they're selling hot water for $5, right? You bought tea there, right? You bought coffee. That's $5. That's profit. But then they have to pay the staff, the things, the different things like that. But that's why you start looking at something, and you got to look at one, the company, two, the business model. If the ability to sell the intrinsic value over a long period of time, their brand is worth something. And then also, we're just using just names that we're using. This is an iPhone. I mean, look at that. I mean, they make hardware and software. Just look at leading companies. Leaders lead. And especially in difficult times, certain companies can do as good or better.
Let
So
me
there's
ask
just
you
certain
this.
things. But also when I go through these, I go through a whole list of things to go through. But you want to find out what exact portfolio is best for you, you should sit down with a financial advisor.
Are there any particular things to look for when the economy is in a certain place? So, for example, we're in a period of inflation. Are there any particular places your mind goes with an understanding that we're in an inflationary period with respect to stocks or other kinds of kind of important financial moves?
And that's a great question about inflation. So also, let me start with the end. When you invest in a portfolio, you want one that can last, that applies in all weather, meaning high inflation, low inflation. So first of all, there's inflation. Then the second challenge we have, challenge, we call them headwinds and tailwinds, like the line. But second challenge that we're dealing with right now is high interest rates. Mm-hmm. So what's also typically asked, and that's on my other questions, is it a good time to buy real estate? You know what I mean? Like, because interest rates are very high. So we're in a high inflation, high interest rate environment. And then third, I'm going to use the word geopolitical risk. Look, I got the balloons coming whenever I get ready to say it. So you remember what's going on kind of around the world, election year, just different things that are happening. So what you want to do is there's certain companies that perform well in difficult times even better. Because and then I'm only using this one because we've talked about tonight.
Sure.
Costco sells food. I don't know if you guys if everybody here, kids, different things that kids spend money all the time. Like you need food all the time. So right. They're pretty much going to need essentials, or we call them consumer staples. They're going to utilize that irregardless. Now, you may not buy other things that are luxury, but you're going to at least get your food. So things like that. So those are what's called consumer cyclicals, consumer durable, things like that people consume. So there's certain ones going to do that. Then also what you said about higher interest rates, though, is about real estate, is that you should always have the right real estate that you need. In other words, if you don't have a property, you should be looking for a property even at higher interest rates, because what happens is there are less people out looking right now than there was before. When interest rates were very low, it was every time a property was sold, it was hitting a new high. So you want to be able to prepare your own personal economy to be able to buy when you need to get something.
Let me ask a follow-up question with respect to the real estate, particularly for those of us living in California. And you have, yes. I've read so many things about people trying to get into a homeowning situation and just finding difficulty. And sometimes there are people purportedly who are in a really good financial situation and just finding difficulty home buying in California. Are there any particular strategies you might offer for people in California or people in a real estate market like that?
Okay. I'm going to answer this question, but there's one caveat to it. I'm saying, is that we do have to have a conversation about this with the group. Meaning, like, it's just not so we can just answer and just be done. So I just want to let you know I do offer to come back and let's have a deeper conversation. So first of all, if you have a home in California and you want to do this, I'm going to say this term, kind of get in where you fit. If you don't have to right now, the property values are much higher in California. I was doing a real estate class, and the guy was looking at the property values. He was buying properties in other states, Texas and other states. He thought those property values were phone numbers. Like when it said 1,213, he thought, I was like, no, it's 1.2 million. You know what I mean? Like he thought they were phone numbers. Just to give you an example. So a couple of things, if you want to buy a home, you number one have to set a goal to do that and look at what it would take for you to have not only a down payment, but then also look at how you can work together. Like there's a lot of times when I talk to young adults or different people about buying homes, there's a lot of sacrifices that need to be made. Like sometimes you need to maybe start off with a condo or start off with a starter home and then go from one to another. I don't know if you ever played Monopoly, but you don't always start off on Park Place. You want to start off in different areas and then look at a starter home. Then second thing that you need to do is buy a home that is on a, here we go, guys. This is the conversation. Buy in the nicest neighborhood you can, buy the smallest home on a biggest lot that you can get that's in the worst condition and fix it up over time. That what I'm saying may not sound very popular to you. You can go ahead and write things like, no, I want to buy everything turnkey. If you got turnkey money, buy turnkey. If you don't, then what you do is you build it into the house of your dreams. So like I purchased a property in Los Angeles, kind of by Ladera. It was in Inglewood. I was doing something called Buy Inglewood. It was there's a street called Santanella and very close to La Tierra. And this property was in Inglewood, but it was across the street from Westchester and across from Ladera. But I knew it was up and coming before the stadium was built. And one of the things I did is it had a crack on the wall. And I walked people in there. I said, you fall in 3 categories. Category number 1 is you don't have any money. You just had to get in here. So you know what you do? You hang a picture up on the wall right where that crack is. And I said, this floor has water damage. I said, if you can't fix, then 1, you can fix it. If you don't have the money to fix it, then you're going to put a rug down. And then you're going to say, then what are you going to do? Are you going to go out to eat all the time? No, you're going to food handle. And then you're going, what? Fix the wall. And then you're going to and then you fix the floor over time and do all that stuff. Then you move out, rent it, and then you buy another property and you keep upgrading. But you have to have a very specific real estate strategy and be disciplined. Someone else wrote inconsistent.
I like what you said there. And I think one of the key words I heard there was strategy. Strategy. And say more about what that means in a context where I'm thinking about families where there's dual income, kids.
That's a good example.
How do you
very good example.
So how do you navigate that with so many different variables? And some people have a lot of different variables in their lives. And the thought of moving into a house with maybe water damage or those kind of things have their implications because of all the variables in your family.
Right. And wait, those are good examples. So then that's where remember I kind of said the get in where you fit in. So then you want to find one that, so like, let's say your family is, you need a little bit more space. Then you have to look at the different locations. Like remember back to what's up and coming is there certain cities that are up and coming. So like, look at where you want to be. So I'm just using Beverly Hills just as an example because, and then we'll do it. Then we'll go on. Like if I were going out and buying a property, I probably wouldn't buy one in Beverly Hills because I'd say everyone there wants to do top dollar. So I'd probably find Beverly Wood, somewhere adjacent to it. But then, I was having a joke, and then if not, then come to Inglewood because those are increasing to such a level because of the stadiums. But then look at areas where that you can rent out more you can rent them out later on for more revenue. So you want to look at areas where you can find a little pockets where they're very, and they're doing it. So let me give an example kind of near Zoe. Is Cerritos. What is the property values there? Probably higher, right?
Absolutely.
Gotcha. Because of what reasons? That school district, just different.
School district, freeway proximity, the mall.
Keep going, right? So then what's next to it that's not as high as Cerritos, but then you can still get some of that stuff. Right. So wait, no, you're giving it. Look at this. You got Dr. Joshua giving financial advice. So you see that? So what you're going to do is start looking at Artesia or look at areas around there to where you can fit in. Then you start off in Artesia, build it up nice. Then you slide over. You see what I'm saying? So you start working that to where you can get in. Because what happens is that as your real estate appreciates and as you pay the mortgage down through our debt elimination, remember, do good, get out of debt, then your equity increases, and then you can either sell and move, or you can do what I typically do is I rent it out and then I have them pay the mortgage and then I move to another home. Because owner occupied financing is cheaper than investment financing.
Talk to us about that the rental dynamic becoming an owner who rents for people who are in
Yeah.
a let's say they're in the struggling phase or the steady phase, and that seems so far away. Or
Oh,
are people simply to focus on the stage they're in, or are they also to be thinking broadly? Or how do people do that? Like get to the
okay.
next stage before they think bigger, or should they be thinking bigger as they're doing the at the other stages?
Gotcha. Page one of the book. What level are you at?
Hmm.
You look at what level you're at, and then your whole goal is just to get to the next level. That's your whole goal.
Good.
We're not going from struggling to service. We're going from struggling to steady, steady to solid, solid to surplus, surplus to service. So if I were living, I'll start with you. You ain't even renting an apartment. You living with your parents, or you living with someone else. Then you start saving money. And parents, hey, don't hang up this phone. Your internet connection is still working. If you're living at home and you're not paying any rent, then what you should do is, if you have a child or grandchild that's above, let's say 20, or in doing that, start charging them rent, but then holding that money. You're utilizing some of that money to start building generational wealth, and then that can be used for a down payment. But then if you're paying lower, you're renting a room from somebody, then start saving that margin so that you can utilize that for a down payment or just different programs. Then you can start to do that. But you want to start saving and start having a margin to where you're able to buy a home, and then just whichever one you can get, whether it's a condo, townhome, or home, and you can still do that. Then also one thing that I think people can do, and that we talked about, is that partner with other people. Like if there's sometimes there's two or three people, we've seen this, where they bought a 3-unit building, and
Mm.
then all three of them lived in one unit. You know what I mean? Like there was this 2-bedroom, and then they just gradually fixed the other two in their room, and then they started buying other ones. So look at also who you may partner with to do that. Because in order to buy a home, you need to have credit, a down payment, and then also you got to have that ability to fix them up, or if you're going to do that. So those are just the things you got to look at in your strategy, but be open and be flexible.
Those are some really good tips. And I just want to pivot now as well to our viewers. If there are any other questions you have, as we get to the final stretch of our talk here, this has been really good information, and I hope you're taking advantage of it. And this is your opportunity to ask Pastor George any other questions you may have in particular. And I appreciate those who've offered some of their comments here. Let me just ask this as we're seeing if some of our other viewers have some more questions or comments. We had talked about it before in some of our early discussions with our group, but just going back to those of us who are with our kids, and we've talked a few things about kind of training them. What would you say is the most important financial principle to communicate to children, whether they be 5 or maybe whether they be teenagers? What's the main thing you want to tell them?
Gotcha. So, with kids, and then also everything that I'm about to tell you, this isn't something I read in a book. This is something that I actually do with my kids, and do this is this. You never limit them.
Hmm.
The most important thing to do is to empower them to be entrepreneurs. So not only that, but but also in their mind. So if you remember, I already told you this, is that my daughter, who was just walked by a little bit ago, actually walked up to me and smooth asked me for $20. Just asked me, just out the blue, Dad, can I have $20? Her brothers, I have twin sons who are 12, and she's 10, but she's about 8 at the time. She said, Dad, can I have $20? I said, Grace, what would you have to do to get $20? She said, I'd make bath bombs. So you guys are, you probably know more about this than I do. She was going to make bath bombs. We went down, my wife went down to the store and bought $41 worth of stuff. Anyway, she made like $150 selling bath bombs like over a weekend. People doing the things, right? So then we explained to her, then I sat with her and I said, this is your 140, this is your money. I said, but you have to then I said, go give mommy $41 back. She said, why? I said, well, so she invested this in you. So in order to do this, and I explained this to her, and then she did this. So what you do is empower them to build wealth at any age. So we go to a grocery store, but it's just certain things. Whenever we go shop, We have a list. If it ain't on the list, we're not getting it. So it's that simple. So we learn how not to impulse buy. But this is the third thing, and these are all number ones. But the most important thing that I teach our kids is to model, as parents, model the behavior. My kids can literally tell you if I own stock in the store. Because if I don't own stock in it, I act like I have a rash. Like, can I get this? I'm like, no, or why, or what do we have to do? Or really sit down and explain it to me over and over again. But then when they walk around the Costco, they're like, oh, we can get anything. Dad, can I get a pair of pants? Sure can. Only $19 anyway. So what you do is you model good behavior to your children. And this is also grandchildren. Grandparents, you have two things to pass generational wealth. Everybody hold up two fingers. Hold up two fingers. It's this. You got one is to pass money, but this is the biggest thing. Pass knowledge. Pass knowledge to pass wisdom to your children and your grandchildren. Because that legacy will last a lifetime. That's what I'm saying.
Well, Pastor George, I really appreciate you taking the time with us, and I'm gonna hang on to the last word you said about modeling. And I think that's not only important for our kids, but I think in a church community, we're always modeling for other people we're around. There's some people who just don't come from families who are doing this kind of thing. And when we can get to know people, interact with people who are modeling that, I think some of that helps our outlook on life financially and otherwise. And so I pray that's happening with Zoe as well, with respect to what we've been doing this month. Thank you so much. I'm sure we're going to be hearing more testimonies. I've already got comments in the chat about people like, hey, let's revisit this in about 6 months to see where people are. I'm sure people have more questions. You mentioned more things about the real estate dynamics, so we'll really see where the congregation is with that. But thank you so much. We're going to finish out our series this year on Jireh and God providing for us, but equipped as well with the practical tools that we've been equipped with Pastor George. And so thank you all so much for joining us. And we'll see you on Sunday and look forward to hearing your testimonies about how God is blessing you and how he's giving you wisdom to steward your resources.
Good. Can I say one more thing?
Absolutely.
The Jireh series, you guys, if you guys give it up for Dr. Joshua, that Jireh series is fire. You guys, I have all kinds of notes on that. I'm gonna be using it too. So it has been a blessing listening to you teach that series. And also, I look forward to us all going higher together. God bless you all. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you so much, Pastor George. Thanks to everyone. You all have a good evening and look forward to seeing God flourish you.